Some stories don't just change what you know, they can change what you feel. And that's exactly what we tried to do this season. To bring you stories from Nunavut that don't just fade once the episode ends. Stories of strength, of survival, of self-determination. I'm Hannah Thibedeau. Welcome to the Arctic Edge. In this final episode of the season, we're not looking back, we're looking forward. Because the future of Nunavut isn't just some distant dream. It's being built right now in a defining moment for Canada's North. Today, we're joined by 4 voices who know what it means to build that future. Nancy Karetak-Lindell. She made history as Nunavut's first member of parliament back in 1997. As of 2024, she's a senator. Joe Savikataaq Jr., mayor of Arviat. And you may recognize from previous episodes Sean Boyd, chair of Agnico Eagle, and Cody Dean, president of Canadrill, entrepreneur and investor. Together, they bring insight, experience, and a shared commitment to a stronger Nunavut. So let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Now, in these episodes, we've been talking about the kinds of opportunities that really feel uniquely Nunavut, whether it's community-led development, Arctic resources, or Inuit-owned business models. So, Senator, I want to start with you on this one because you're new to the show, so welcome to the program. What are those opportunities, and why do you think it exists there in ways that maybe don't exist elsewhere in Canada?
We that live in the North always know that things will be different for us when you look at models done in other places in the country. For any development, all our stuff have to be brought in by sea lift or very expensively by air freight. We have seasons that we have to respect where supplies have to be brought in. The challenges are enormous that you have to think outside of the box in trying to get any programs going, any development going. The challenges are just so enormous that it takes a different set of mind, determination, and for things to all click into place. We are very patient people in that we have to constantly wait for things to arrive in our communities. And I think that sets the tone for how we do things in the North. You know, you can't just run down the street and pick up parts that you need for whatever you're working on at the moment. And, you know, right now we just finished receiving the sea lift of fuel, sea lift of products brought in for construction, and it's all weather related. So it's a different mindset when you're trying to create something in the North, and you need the patience and the patience of partners, which might not be used to this type of determining what happens when. Like, we have to wait so much for time to start a program or a project and for the parts to come in. It just has so many different challenges that you're not going to find in a normal construction season.
Let's bring Sean Boyd in here because your company has been there for nearly 20 years now, and we hear the senator talk of these issues, but you've made it work.
Yeah, we've made it work, and I would agree with the senator is that patience is important. Things do take a bit longer, but I think there are similarities to the way a good resource development or miner thinks and the way the Inuit think. Both think long term. You need that long-term perspective. but you also need an ability to work together to actually get things done. And I think that's why, as we all sit here together, we see the tremendous opportunity that exists in the North. We see the current environment that we're in geopolitically and with our neighbors to the south, which is putting more onus on Canadians, all Canadians, to look after their own business and take advantage of opportunities. So we're all together, everyone on this call, in a unique situation to continue to think long term, but have a sense of urgency around getting things moving and getting things working, not just for business, but also for the communities.
Let me bring the mayor in now. Mayor, what makes Nunavut different when you think of, what exists there that really doesn't exist in the rest of Canada?
Well, there's a lot of things that we could say or touch on that. One of the most uniqueness of our place here in the north is the isolation and no connection to the south via highways, as the senator mentioned, that everything has to be flown in or well planned in advance to get it on the sea lift for next year, for next sailing season. And that window is very tight, very short, with many people making bookings for those sea lifts. You have to be well prepared for that, and that's one of the uniqueness up here and the challenges of being in an isolated place.
Cody, you are the next generation coming up, and everybody in this panel here is really proud of what you've been able to accomplish there as an entrepreneur, as a leader. So, for the next generation, what could they learn from what you see there now moving forward into the future?
I think just understanding what's possible. It's really hard to change opinions or change stereotypes. As a local, in construction, there's this idea that we're not reliable, or we don't want to go to work. This is within these construction sites in the community. So I think until people make things happen, then the eyes will open, and people will understand that they have the potential to build things, and create opportunities for themselves, and create new markets, and really transform their communities themselves. So I think you start to see that in certain communities, and we talk about the remoteness of Nunavut, but also the remoteness of each community from each other, and that's another challenge and barrier. And it's something you see when you work in all of them, and it's a real shame that a lot of our people don't get to see other places in the territory, because it's pretty inspirational at times.
Sean, I've heard you mention quite a few times too that, we see Cody talking about the fact that, getting that story out there. But maybe part of the issue is the story to the rest of Canada as well.
Yes, and I think that's what we were hoping we were able to accomplish with this podcast, and I think we've done an exceptional job. Is that it's a story of resilience, but also of success that's not sort of really understood or appreciated. And when we think about the future, it's those skills that exist in the young people there of resilience and history and culture are important foundation to grow economies, to help communities become more prosperous within those communities, and for industry like resource development and mining. It's how can we draw on that sort of strength and resilience to be a better partner, to understand the not just the opportunities but the needs of the communities. And so one of the benefits of being in mining is that it's an exciting business, but we can also make a real difference in the parts of the world we choose to be. And we've chosen to spend a lot of our resources in Canada, and a significant number of resources with our presence in the north. And we look forward to continuing to do that. But it's only going to be a success. Not the success won't be determined by how big the mines are. it'll really be determined ultimately by how the communities are strengthened through our investments in the North.
Senator, what are your thoughts on that, on how communities are being strengthened by this type of industry in the North? And we see that it's potentially going to grow even more because of the discussions that have been happening and amplified recently with President Donald Trump.
When I think back to the community I grew up in, we really didn't have a say in how decisions were made. We were told what we could learn, what we should do, when we should go to school. Our parents and grandparents had no role in deciding what our life was going to be like, and made to feel that what they knew in their culture context was not of any use in the future. And that's what we're trying to recover from. We're trying to get back our confidence. We're trying to get back our respect for our knowledge and make people realize, especially our young people, that these two areas of knowledge can be merged, that we have to believe in ourselves again, that we have the capabilities to do the large projects, and also that we need to involve the young people in making decisions. We have gone through a time where we were not confident to make our own decisions about our lives. And we need to get that back. We have to learn to be proud of who we are, where we come from, and translate that knowledge and abilities to the modern context. In one of your earlier podcasts, people talked about how modern technology has made life easier for us, but you can't live safely out on the land without that deep knowledge that we need to have. So we have to find a way to encourage our young people to be proud of who they are and have them realize they have capabilities. And going to something that Sean said, we have people who've only lived through welfare and have not finished high school, but they find that they could work. Some have very good work ethics, but that's also something that needs to be taught. And they become part of the community building up instead of being dependent on social programs provided by the government. So we have a big role to play as adults in our communities, that we are capable and that we can meet the challenges of today and combine both knowledges, take the best of the both worlds, and be part of being a contributing person in our community instead of just depending on what's out there in programs.
Mayor, what makes collaborations so effective in this region?
Well, I would like to say that you need collaboration to have any success or any movement going forward. No one person or entity can accomplish anything. You need a whole team to accomplish that. And we have been doing that very well, and since AEM got into the picture here in the Kivadlet, by going to them and asking them what kind of training needs is required for our local Inuit here. I'm specifically talking where I come from, on how they can contribute to the mine and start working and providing for their families. Might be welders, diamond drillers, heavy equipment operators, even camp cooks. And we've done that. We've offered courses so that we can make sure our people are working at the mine on roles that are needed to make us a success. And so teamwork is very important. And that's the way we've always been, and we will continue to be that way.
Sean Boyd, I want to bring you into this. He mentions AEM, which is Agnico Eagle Mines, and a lot of positive things there from the mayor about that collaboration.
Yes, and we wouldn't have had the success we've had without the support of the business community and the communities in general. But there's much more work to do, and there's a lot more opportunity to take advantage of. And I'll sort of connect that to the young people, which is really the future. And so when we look at our journey that started effectively in 2007, in 2010, when we opened the mine, we felt that we were on the right track, because at the Meadowbank opening, an elder got up and said, "I'm okay, you're here. I'm okay, Agnico Eagle's here." And then we roll it forward almost 10 years. And when we opened Meliadine in Rankin Inlet, we had a little bit of a delay in the start of the program. And it's funny how things work. The young people in the community were sitting on the floor in front of the stage, waiting for the program to start. And that gave me a half an hour just to sit there and talk to young people that were 7 years old or 8 years old, which is the future. And when you think about the young people and just anywhere today, it doesn't matter where you are, how difficult it is as to sort of navigate as a young person. The young people in the communities of Nunavut have a more difficult time because they don't have the tools. And the tools are as simple as housing and a place to study. Good education system, so that when you complete grade 12, you have the grade 12 skills that others have. And so there's a lot more work to do, but it also speaks to the opportunity as we make progress in a number of those areas. And I think that comes back to the collaboration. It's not just about building mines or putting in a road or putting in a port. It's about doing it together in a way that uplifts the communities and makes for more prosperous families in those communities.
Now, we're going to talk about education in a minute because it's such an important part in the North, and all of you have mentioned it. But I want to talk about, Sean, in one episode, you described the Inuit as having open hearts, and you're referring to that when you first arrived in Baker Lake. It comes back to this collaboration, and that image has stuck with me. I think you said it the first time I spoke with you, because real collaboration only works when listening goes both ways. Now, Senator, how does this, work there, where in some parts of the country we may see places that policies being developed without community voices at the table? So how is it working there? Maybe not in all cases, but it sounds like overall it seems to be working.
Well, we have a consensus government in our government of Nunavut Legislative Assembly. And at the time that people were talking about our future back in, my high school days of creating our own territory and Inuit having self-determination and the ability to be part of decision making, it was with this consensus model, and that is having respect for each other. It's having respect for where people come from. We understand things so differently and go at things from a different angle, and we have to also respect where other people are coming from, and it's being open to thinking in a different way. And I think we've been very successful, as Joe says, with training programs in communities where the students are supported. When you have opportunities for learning and you do it in a different way, because we have to admit what's happened from K to 12 for the last 70 years has not worked. We have not produced the graduates that we feel we should have. So we have to find different ways of reaching people and teaching people. And speaking with my parents who have since passed on, but I always say no one can tell me that my parents did not have PhD knowledge, that they tried to share with everyone. And the way they taught was very subtle. And you didn't realize you were learning things as you went along. And I think that's the type of learning that we need to bring back in a way that our young people understand. And it's also where you support the students. And if you have a lot of community support, the mayor's coming to say good luck and do well in your studies, maybe we'll hire you after you're done. And Arviat has probably the most women working as heavy equipment operators or in our municipal services that they're all supported too. And my niece is right now taking a course with heavy equipment. So when we show those opportunities that you can do it and that people believe in you, and that's really what education should be, where you have people believing in what you're doing. I mean, I'm not where I am today without having had people from Arviat supporting me from the day I entered school and supporting me and making me believe that I could do it. And we have Nunavut Sivunik where they have a very strong support system for the students that go to Ottawa and first time down south for some of them. So when you have that type of supporting environment, people that believe in you, education can really take a different turn. And I believe that that's possible because we've seen it, as Joe says, in our community. So it can be done.
Cody, mentorship and role models. I think I remember saying, you're one of those people. And you kind of went, oh, you're a little shy about it. But it's true. You are one of those people. How does that feel?
I I appreciate it for sure. It meant a lot to me, and even if I'm just a mentor for somebody wanting to learn a trade, that's, that's awesome for me because I think um, having a trade really gave me a lot of independence and confidence to, take some chances. Starting a business, I thought maybe I'll work for, I'll have it for a couple of years and then I'll have to go back to work for the Power Corp. But that was okay because I had, the skills to take care of myself if things didn't work out as a contractor. So I think if there's anything that I'd love to encourage young people, or as a first step, is just invest in yourself and in your skills, and that's why I think a lot of us talk about education, is because that knowledge is power, and everything that comes with it, independence, your own home, and really control of the direction of where your life goes. So yeah, I think if I'm proud of anything, it's that I can at the very least help somebody become skilled in whatever they want to pursue.
Mayor, I want you in on this conversation too, because everybody on this screen is a mentor, is a role model to people in your community. How vital is that? Because it was actually the senator that first brought it up, being able to see yourself in what they dream they could be. Talk a little bit about that for me.
Oh, mentorship is so important. That's what kids look up to, and they see what they're like with their own eyes. They're seeing things, they're experiencing things, and they grow up watching certain people with different experiences and backgrounds or job roles, and they start to know what career path they want to take. So mentorship is extremely important on that, whether they're going into private sector or government or working for the mines and picking a trade that they like. Every graduation time, the Hamlet of Arviat is quite involved with our graduating students here in Arviat. And we always tell the students here in Arviat, pick a career that you like. Everyone always wants money, but you should be doing what you like to do, and so much so that it doesn't look or feel like a job. And if you've made it there, it'll be much easier. And so do what you like doing with the mentorship that you receive from others and watching others grow.
So, all of you have brought up the issue of education, and that's something that I think is really important to discuss. It's one of the strongest threads throughout all of our episodes. And in Nunavut, it's not just about curriculum. It's not just about the classrooms. It's about housing, food security, mentorship, as we were just talking about, language, role models, as we were just talking about, everything included. Senator, I want to start first with you. How do you grow the number of Inuit professionals? You talked about your parents sort of being the PhD in your ear, and you didn't realize it when you were younger. How do we continue to grow those professionals?
Believing in ourselves is a absolute necessary characteristic. But we also need to understand that failure is going to come at certain times in your life, that's not the end of the road. I'm not, to this day, I still don't know how you can teach work ethics other than watching someone with good work ethics, which I had in my father. And we need to build up thinking capacity, that you can think beyond where you are today. You can also teach young people that just because you failed at something doesn't mean that's the end of the road for you. Maybe you need to take a different path. Maybe that path was not for you. And maybe the timing was not right. That we have to teach young people that at times we are going to fail, and take that as a chance to think again. Is this the path I really want to be on? Maybe I need a career change. But you also need people that are able to talk to you about those kinds of moments in your life when challenges seem too great. My mother was considered a very wise woman, and she talked about how we can make people, that we can make an egg, we can make a person, and we can make a rock. And it's how you are taught as a person. If we've coddled someone too much, maybe we're not giving them the opportunities to really learn the realities of a life that's filled with some disappointing moments in your life. Or you've taught someone not to care about things by the way you treat them, so you create a rock who has no sensitivity and kindness to other people. So she said that as parents, we have to teach our young people to be capable of thinking for themselves, and to know that there are disappointing times, but there's also great times of, achieving what you want to do and being proud of yourself. So not only in the actual teaching of a trade or a career, we also have to teach resiliency, the ability to overcome difficult times in our lives. And our history has not been good to us, so we have to always go back and take care of the intergenerational trauma that really exists in our communities, and find a way to help people find that path that works for them, that it's one that they're responsible for, because we can offer all the supports that we can design, but at the end of the day, it's up to each person to pursue the road that works for them.
Mayor, I want to talk about something I read about that you had said, what it really takes for a student in Nunavut to graduate grade 12. And it's different than what you see in the South.
Definitely. There's a need for improvement on that part of education there academically. Nunavut is lacking on that, but keeping in mind, if you look at the people, the Inuit of Nunavut, just 2 or 3 generations ago, they were nomadic, whereas some civilizations in other parts of the world have been taxing and collecting interest for over 2,000 years. So there's a lot of catching up to do on our end, but definitely there needs to be an improvement on that, so that when Nunavut kids graduate in Nunavut, they could be accepted without having the need for an upgrade to get into universities or colleges. That's where there needs to be some improvement made on that.
We have a bit of a model. The similarities aren't perfect, but we went into Mexico, northern Mexico. There's remote area, small communities. Roughly the same time we came to Nunavut. And that business is roughly 2,000 employees, and they're all Mexican. They're all Mexican. And we deliberately did not want to bring expats there. We wanted to see that we could build a team from the top to the bottom that were all Mexican. And locally, about 70% of the population of the local communities works for the mine. So it is doable. Now, there are some different challenges in the north, but there's also some different opportunities. But it will start with education to, as the senator said, not just to develop experience and skills, but to instill confidence, to take those leadership positions on, and those will be the role models. And so when you look on out, if we have a business at one point in the future where every single employee is a Nunavut, then all the other issues we've talked about, housing, food security, are likely have been looked after, because through that process we've instilled skills in education, building on the culture and the traditions, and we built the confidence to take on those leadership roles.
There is a line from the elders when we sat down with them that always sticks in my head. And this is how I kind of want to end this episode today. Leave this place better than you found it. And it plays back in my head quite a bit. It's simple, it's powerful. And to me, it really is the heartbeat of everything we've been talking about throughout this whole series. Inuit led. And we were just talking about that. Inuit owned businesses, strong communities, generational thinking. So let's go around for this last question. Let me ask you this. What does a better Nunavut look like 25 years from now? And how do we start making that future real starting today? And Mayor, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Thank you for this opportunity here. A better future, in my opinion, for us here in the north would be to see more Inuit get better education and get higher jobs that are in more supervisory roles or maybe even executive roles due to their background and education and experience. So that would be a win-win, along with taking care of the environment when mining is done, to make sure it's done in a environmentally friendly way, but more so that people get something out of it, not just when the mine leaves, so that there's still something there for the people of the north.
Cody, what can start happening today?
I think a healthier population would be good, like access to, healthier food options and education on, how what you put into your body really is so huge for, the rest of your life and your well-being. So in the communities, it's really tough to access, good meat and proteins and sugar-free options. But living off the land, I think, is ideal, and improving, that and giving people the resources to sustain themselves with what's available around their communities. That's a nice start.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, as we've said before, we're visitors and we don't want to speak on behalf of Nunavut. But I think if you look forward 25 years, you could call that 25-year period a success if the young people today have been able to realize their dreams over the next 25 years. That joy and energy you see in the 5-year-old and the 6-year-old, they still have that joy and energy when they're 31 years old or 30 years old, because we've been able, collectively working together, to provide them with the tools to get to where they want to get to.
Senator, the final word to you.
I think of my grandchildren and possibly great-grandchildren living in a world where they have a healthier lifestyle, but also able to practice their culture and being proud of it, being able to speak Inuktitut, and being in those jobs where they make the policies, where they're part of creating a working environment that values the knowledge that Inuit have. They're working in a work environment where they feel they can contribute with the knowledge that has been passed down to them, where they're proud to be who they are, and contributing and being part of the decision making. Like even taking myself, I wasn't always part of making decisions in my community that would have maybe changed the path that we've been on. So I look at my grandchildren and I want to see them being proud of being Inuit, the contributions Inuit have given to the country and the inventions that Inuit have done, and realizing this is our history. We have a chance to carry this forward and be proud of who we are.
I want to thank you all for the time today. I truly appreciate it. I want to thank you all, but also thank those who have shared their stories throughout season 1. I'm Hannah Thibedeau. Thank you for listening to The Arctic Edge, Stories from Canada's Frontier. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and leave it better than you found it.